Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to analyze the debate around freebies versus welfare. Now this topic is of extreme significance from the perspective of GS mains paper 2 that revolves around the political scenario of the country. What is the analytical and logical nuance that we are going to discuss over here will be important from the perspective of GS mains paper 2. So what is the news? What is the freebies culture, or it is also in common parlance said Revdi culture? Okay, freebies versus welfare. Has there any take or a stand been taken on the freebies by any court, especially Supreme Court? What are the criticisms and the points which are in favor of it? Also, way forward, plus the question with respect to mains examination. Now, we have to, as a democracy, transition from freebies to welfareism. Now, if I say these two words are very different in nature. If a political party, it proposes to give laptop in exchanges of its party, his or her party coming into the power, then it's a freebie. And of course, that is harmful in the long run because it favors or fulfills a very short term demand, right, without creating any return. So what is the current debate here? It is with respect to freebies versus welfareism. Too much giving away of free gifts or freebies in exchange of political power, it has a dangerous culture revolving around it, because first of all, it favors a very a clique of people, you can say a very minority amount of people, versus welfareism. It tries to, at least it tries to welfare the entire public. Collectively, it tries to do the welfare or the benefit of them, and it is also sustainable in nature. The freebie culture basically started evolving since 1967, and it all started in Tamil Nadu when the C.N. Annadurai, who was the chairman of the DMK, he said that if his party comes into the power, then 3 measures of rice will be given for 1 rupee. Now, it started the culture from there itself. And after that, after his rise, many parties, in not only in Tamil Nadu, but everywhere else also, they started giving out freebies that could range from free television sets, laptops, computers, bicycles, bus trips for ladies, free gas cylinders and stove, even goat or a cow for the needy farmers. Now, the problem with freebies are that it gives rise to a syndrome. This syndrome is known as the patron-client syndrome, and it also has an issue with the political structure. It gives rise to populist policies, and it also harms the public exchequer. Okay, why? Because if I am giving free gifts to somebody and that person is not, of course, giving me any monetary return in back, then of course I will have to pay from my exchequer without getting anything in return. So expenditure versus revenue. Moving on, if we talk about the basic understanding around the welfare as well, so it's basically welfareism, a targeted public distribution system that tries to distribute equally among the public whatever the measures are taken in their welfare. It is such as social security for workers, getting better insurance policies for workers, also excellent education so that if I teach a group of students, they will be able to take care of themselves and earn revenue for themselves in the future. Also fair employment, cheap healthcare, good housing, these all are a part of welfareism. Okay, and also protection from exploitation and violence. This tends to benefit the greater and more collective public. Now, moving on, if we talk about freebies, it is mostly political in nature. The political parties, they tend to defend the freebies culture. Why? Because they are trying to justify it. How? By saying that it is basically a social security measure for those who are at the down of the barrel, at the bottom of the barrel in the economic pyramid. So it is basically to entice people to vote in a certain election. The recipient with minimal private advantage is there, because it will benefit only one person. That one person might not be able to return in any form whatever investment has been done in his or her betterment. Okay, so that is also another problem. Do not contribute to the building of public goods and facilities. It's not developmental in nature. Moving on, let's talk about the take of the Supreme Court on this culture. The Supreme Court in the S. Subramaniam Balaji versus Government of Tamil Nadu, this case was from 2013. They said that, of course, if we talk about the culture, although promises in the election manifesto cannot be construed as corrupt practices under 123 of the Representation of Peoples Act. Now, Supreme Court said that freebies are not unconstitutional. Why? Because seldom the parties, they give out freebies through their manifesto by mentioning it in their manifesto, and it is not a corrupt practice. But of course, the distribution of freebies, it influences the people. Now, it gives a rise to clientelism, and that is not very healthy for the free and fair working of the democracy. Because if a person is voting only in lieu of gifts, then what about the logic? Why take anything for free when even the government is not, getting it for free? So in the long term, of course, it is going to harm. And this also gives a very, you can say, this particular notion that we as receiving freebies, we are the subjects of those who are in political power. We are not the subjects, but we do deserve the protection of being looked after because of the Constitution. And the Madras High Court also started voicing its concerns with respect to the elections in 2021. So, of course, whenever we are talking about voicing concerns, it will always be on the premise of Constitution. If Constitution is promising us something, that is our right, but it's not promising us freebies, right? So logical and analytical part of it is also something to be something that we have to think about as future bureaucrats. What are the criticisms? First of all, it is upsetting India's quest for sustainable development. Why? Because India wants to transition from the conventional electricity that is sourced from coal to renewable energy. But if different governments will continue giving electricity subsidies, when discoms are not healthy right now, they're extremely unhealthy, they are not running in profits but in loss. So what will it do? It will take a toll on the environment. We cannot say that, okay, we will give you free renewable energy, free of cost electricity through renewable energy, free of cost right now, because India hasn't transitioned so. But if the government continues to give free subsidies as promised in their manifesto, they will try to garner more coal for providing electricity. That is not environmentally sustainable. Challenges of inequity. Now, if different states have this different policy of giving freebies, certain states might give freebies, certain states do not. So it is actually giving rise to inequality on pan-India basis. Then comes the issue of access. Maybe certain people are able to get freebies because they are lucky enough to be born in certain states. But for those who are not, that is also a problem. The issue of expenditure prioritization being distorted away from growth enhancing terms, because if a party promises subsidies and you can say freebies in any kind of manifesto, then they will of course try to prioritize the expenditure on freebies, because on the premise of that only they came into power. So because of that, the prioritization also takes a downward turn. How to choose between what is actually important in the long-term growth and the short-term benefits. Impacts on states' fiscal situation. Sometimes so much so can be invested in terms of given freebies. I wouldn't use the term invested by, you can say spending on freebies. Investment is something that has a return. Spending on freebies, that it takes a toll on the fiscal status of the states, because they are not contributing to the revenue system. If I develop any region and it's not generating revenue, then what will happen? I will go into loss, right? Not profit, not even a break-even point. Against the free and fair election system, because these all are a populist policy, and it also gives rise to the personality cults. Why? Because suppose I am a political person, I am in the run to become the CM, I am promising freebies, then there can be a mindset, right? That I am like a king or a queen who is giving free gifts to her or his subject. So this is also giving rise to personality cults. Moving on, if we are going to talk about arguments in favor, it is seldom said that they help the less developed states, specifically those states who are not doing very well with respect to the economic terms, so that essential for fulfilling expectation. Seldom it also happens that the citizens of a particular state, they look up to the political parties to give them something without expecting anything in return from the citizens. So this also does have a point when it comes to arguments in favor. In certain boost industries in the terms, in certain states, specifically in the southern states of India, it was seen that by giving freebies such as bicycles, sari, many industries also started to get a boost, because the government promised in its manifesto and now mass production is done, but the government is of course paying from its own coffers. Now the government won't get anything in return. So this is the argument in favor. Moving on, what can be the way forward? First way forward is impact of freebies should be first of all calculated. Okay, an economic analysis should be done. How much to be invested in freebies? What are the harms in the long terms? And if it's not causing any harm, not causing any minor harm, even a minor harm will take a toll in the long term finances of the government. If it's not causing any harm, then reasonable freebies can be given. And there should also be a proper differentiation between what are subsidies and what are freebies. Tell me in the comment segment what is the difference between the two. Moving on, let us talk about our question for today. The recent debate about the perils of freebie culture should serve as a timely reminder to those promising fiscally imprudent and unsustainable subsidies. We have to discuss this in 250 words, okay? So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay engaged.